Horizons. This is a game of space expansion and colonialism that is reminiscent of several 4X games out there. But in this game, they forgot or they left out on purpose one of the X's, the Exterminate. This is a game in which you will go out there, colonize planets, put resource extractors, get resources to build more colonies, and you do that in various planetary systems, but you don't attack each other. There's still interactions you will see because it's a competition to grab limited resources, and so you can still annoy the heck out of the other players simply by taking what clearly they wanted, but at least you don't have that direct, brutal attacking one another, which also means no direct player elimination. Another thing that differentiates Horizons from some 4X games out there is that it is actually playable. That the rules are pretty simple. This is on the light side of the spectrum, definitely, and it is playable in an hour or so. So, in fact, it feels like a hybrid really between a Euro and a 3X game. Anyways, without further ado, let me show you Horizons, in which you will control civilizations and you will try to expand your influence around the galaxy. Each player controls a space civilization represented by a board such as this one. These boards are double-sided. On one side, with that symbol, you have the basic civilization, and all basic civilizations are the same, they function the same way. And on the other side, you have advanced civilizations, they're all different, and they do different things, and they have different limitations. Here, at the beginning of the game, you will place the game components representing the buildings you're trying to, well, build during the game. These ones here vaguely look like tombstones are colonies. Then we have the metal extractors and the energy extractors. And in fact, energy and metal are two of the resources in the game. The other resource is knowledge, which also represents victory points. So collecting these things gives you victory points, but then you can also trade them for various types of resources. Players have mission cards, and these cards will give you extra victory points at the end of the game if you're able to complete the requirements of the mission card. You acquire mission cards during the game and you keep them face down in your play area so that people don't know exactly what you're trying to do. Allies. Each player starts with an ally such as this one. The ally has an icon representing the action that triggers the ability of the ally. So when you take that action, you can perform the action described here, and then you do what it says in this section here. And this section here says flip it. So after you trigger with an action, perform the special action, you flip it, and pretty much now you'll be able to do the same thing again, but then the card will be trashed. And pretty much that means that allies can be used twice, and there are different other allies that you can acquire during the game. These are stacks of allies, and you organize them by the action that triggers them. Now, at the beginning of the game, you will place a number of stars in the middle of the play area, equal to the number of players, and then during the game, players will draw planets from this bag. The planets are double-sided, they represent different types of planets, and they have 3 slots where buildings can go. During the game, players will place planets adjacent to stars. Each star can have up to 6 planets to form a star system. More than that, well, the system is complete. You cannot add more planets to that system. Also, we have these tokens here that indicate adaptation. You place a token on this kind on your board on top of the planet to indicate that now your race has adapted to live and develop buildings and structures on that planet. Now, during your turn, you may take 2 actions from this list here. You may take them in any order. You may repeat the same action, and the actions are pretty simple. You can explore, which is you draw a planet from the bag and you add it to a system. You choose a side and you add it to a system that may still have a planet. You also gain a knowledge point for doing so. This is an action that usually players don't like to take. They prefer other people to find the planets and then to spend their own actions to go and just build stuff on it. Darn freeloaders. There's a galaxy full of freeloaders. Adapt. This is when you learn how to live on one of the planets. You want to go there, then you got to adapt to it. So you spend an action to adapt. And you also gain an ally when you take the adapt action, which again, it feels a little bit underwhelming otherwise. Meh, just putting a token there. You take an ally, and that is actually pretty good. All those allies can in fact be pretty good. Build. To build on a planet, well, you can build a colony or one of the two types of extractors. The cost is indicated depending on your board based on number of, on the type of planet. For example, say on this planet you can build colonies. Colonies can be built on any planet, and or you can build a energy extractor. On a frozen planet, the only type of extractor that you can build is a metal extractor. On a volcanic planet, you can build either metal extractors or energy extractors. Of course, you can build both, but it takes you 2 actions. And you had to spend the corresponding resources in terms, that is the cost in terms of energy and metal. Suppose, in fact, that my civilization now has adapted to live on volcanic planet, and we have one right there. And I want to build a metal extractor, and I do precisely so, and later I decide, since I'm also adapted for Arborea, later I build a colony there, and I also build an energy extractor. So that is for building, pretty self-explanatory. But remember, each time that you take an action, you can also activate one action of an ally. So when I'm building, I could activate this action here if this ally is in my play area, or this one, or this one. For each action, you can only activate one ally. Harvest. This is when you gain the resources that you need to build things. So to harvest, you simply will declare that you're taking the harvest action, and you gain 1 energy for each energy extractor that you have in play, and 1 metal for each metal extractor that you have in play. Finally, Conspire. The 5th action is Conspire. Conspire allows you to draw 2 mission cards and add them to your pool of mission cards, so possibly scoring more things at the end of the game. Or you may take a mission card, instead of 2, you can take a mission card and an ally card. You can even look at the first mission card and decide that the second card you want to take with a Conspire action is another mission or is an ally card. The game continues like this, turn after turn, with players taking 2 of these actions in any order until a player has built all of their colonies. At the point you score missions, player may have collected knowledge tokens during the game also, but something that will give you a lot of points is majority in a system. So for each system you check to see who has majority. For majority or for control, each colony is worth 2 points, so let's say 2 control points, each extractor 1 control point. The player with the majority scores 6 points, the second player 3 points, all other players 0 points. And there are different ways in which you handle ties, but still this is the general idea. After you score all missions and control a majority in all systems, the player with the highest total of victory points, which is, knowledge tokens also, there with 3 points each. The player with the highest total of victory points is the winner of the game. I like Horizons quite a bit. It's just fun. It's just fun. I love the fact that you have a lot of different paths to victory, and those paths may even change during the game as you change your mission cards. Sometimes in these games where you have a condition that you need to meet at the end of the game, you get stuck with that one at the beginning of the game and you have to make it work. Here you can acquire so many during the game that I almost say at a certain point you start building your stuff and then you see if you get the right one that sort of matches what you have, and then you give it the final touches. At least that happened to me in one case. But what really also differentiates the game from many of the games of this type is the ally mechanics. It's really interesting to work with these allies because you're powerful, but the fact that you have a limited number of users doesn't make them over powerful. It's nice to have, and in fact you use your allies and you get a boost and you jump ahead, and then you slow down because your allies are not there anymore and that the players now are using their allies. I also like the fact that you can't just use the ally just because the ally is put into motion by certain actions. So now you're trying to take the action that triggers the ally, but of course if you do it just because of that, you're kind of wasting at least part of your action. So you're trying to optimize your opportunities, and so you're trying to make things fit so that you really benefit from the action and you get the trigger for your ally at the same time. Now, as I said, it's 3 axes because you don't directly destroy each other, but there is this fact that after a while you'll try to get a sense of what are the missions that the other players are trying to accomplish. Especially the second time that you play the game, you know more or less what the missions might be. Or in any case, you see that there is a player that has a strange obsession with frozen planets. What's about that? All other things being equal, maybe I'm gonna get my colony on a frozen planet because it looks like you wanted to get there, so I'm gonna go there first. So again, you try to get a sense of what they want to do, and you annoy the heck out of them, which can be very, very effective, but it still feels as less bad than if it was direct open war of extermination. I like the flexibility of the actions. I like how these actions work very differently. It reminded me a little bit, but very vaguely, of Race for the Galaxy. But in general, it is a game definitely with a strong personality. It plays well, it moves fast, well, if players want to make it move fast. It seems truism, but it doesn't have to be. There are games that always move fast, and games that, especially a higher number of players, may induce a little bit of analysis paralysis. This is probably the only small minus that I have about it. With 4 or 5 players, the risk is that in fact not only is a turn taking longer before it goes back to you, but players are taking longer in their turn because scoring is based on majority, and so you have every time to recount what the players have done. It's not that really, oh, I'm gonna plan my turn in advance, so when my turn comes I can do my thing. Sometimes you can do that, but there are the cases in which you wanted to do an action to get majority there, and now the players have taken that slot, or they threaten your majority, and now you're considering if in fact you shouldn't try to do something else somewhere else. And that happened right in the turn with the player before you, and so now you had to think your strategy from scratch. So because of that, the game may slow down and becomes a little less exciting. I think really with the lower number of players is when the game works best. Components are great, rules are simple, linear, and well laid out. So with that minus caveat, which doesn't even have to be, maybe you have players that just think very fast, so you don't have that problem. But the minor caveat of the small danger of some analysis paralysis, Horizons is overall a really fun, really entertaining game. It gives you a set of interesting challenges to analyze. It feels familiar in a sense because these are very well-known mechanics, but the mix to me feels, well, it is its own thing. It has enough personality that doesn't look like just a patchwork of other things. Heck, chicken Caesar salad, whoever was the benefactor that invented it, didn't invent chicken, didn't invent salad, they didn't invent lettuce, but the way they put them together were just more than the sum of the parts. And this is Horizons, very simple and even very well-known mechanics with a couple of unique touches that just are enough to make it its own thing, and most importantly, to make it a fun game.